guys, today we're making a quick version of chicken fajitas. This is a quick meal to get on the table any night of the week. So I've already cut my onions up. What I'm going to do next is cut the bell pepper, and I'm cutting it into strips. So we're going to do a take on chicken fajitas. We're going to cook some chicken thigh meat down with bell peppers and onions and some seasonings. We're going to serve that with some soft tortillas and some guacamole, and we're going to make a pico de gallo to go with that as well. So there's my bell peppers. I have some fresh cilantro here. We're going to use that for the pico de gallo, and we're going to use these Roma tomatoes. So depending on the time of year, you could use whatever kind of tomatoes are in season. These Roma tomatoes just looked beautiful, so that's what I'm using today. Now I'm going to make the pico de gallo, and for that I want to take the leaves off of the cilantro. And then we just want to do kind of a rough chop on the cilantro. So stack it all together and just kind of go through it. Cilantro is one of those things you either love or you hate. Some people taste the herbiness of the cilantro, and some people taste soap. So it just depends on your taste buds. You really can't change that. Just a rough chop on that. Put that over to the side. And I'm going to go ahead and get my tomatoes cut up. So we're going to cut the tomatoes just into some slices. Then we're going to take these slices of tomatoes and we're going to cut them into strips, and then we're going to dice them. They don't have to be perfect. We want them kind of small. Okay, we need to put a little bit of onion in our pico de gallo, but I like to use a red onion for that. And so I'm just going to cut this into a really small dice. All right, to this we're going to add just a little bit of oil, and I've got an olive oil here. And we're going to add some lime juice, but I like to roll the lime to get it nice and juiced before we cut it and squeeze the juice in there. Right in the center, and squeeze the juice. Now I'm going to save the other half of my lime to squeeze onto the chicken as we're cooking the chicken. We're going to season this with some salt and pepper. We could add other seasonings if you'd like, but I like it simple, just like that. Just one more thing we're going to add to our pico de gallo, and that is going to be a little bit of jalapeno. This depends how hot you like it, and we don't like it too very hot, so I'm literally just doing the end of the jalapeno. And I'm going to cut that up really, really fine. If you like it really spicy, then you can put more jalapeno, but we like it just lightly spicy. All right, add that to the pico. And we're going to let this hang out while we get our chicken cooked down and get our tortillas warmed up. So I'll meet you over at the range. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get some olive oil in our pan here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it on and let that olive oil heat up. Now in the pot, I have some water. We're going to do a version of Mexican rice to go with our fajitas. I'm going to show you an easy way to put that together. So that water, it's about 3 cups of water. We're going to put 1.5 cups of jasmine rice in that. So I'm going to let that cook for just a few minutes. And I'm gonna let this oil heat up for just a second, and while it's heating up, I'm gonna go ahead and put my onions and my bell peppers in there. We're gonna get this stirred around, and we're gonna let it start to cook down. We wanna cook this down for a few minutes before we put our chicken in. I have chicken thighs. They're cut into small chunks, and they cook pretty fast. So these are the chicken thighs. I cut them into small pieces, got rid of any of the hard gristle, and they're gonna cook really fast. I like the thighs for this meal because it gives it a lot of flavor. Once our water has come to a boil, we're gonna go ahead and add our rice. Once you add your rice, then you want to also stir. We're gonna go ahead and salt, and we're gonna add a little butter. The salt is in the pinch pot, so we're gonna do 2 good pinches of salt. We're gonna add half a stick of butter, or 4 tablespoons. We're just gonna put that right into the center. We're gonna let it come back to a boil, and as soon as it comes back to a boil, we're gonna put the lid on it, and we're going to time it for 12 minutes, no longer. Peppers and onions have started to cook. I'm gonna let them continue to cook for just a few minutes. This has come to a boil, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a heavy lid on the top. We're going to turn it down to medium, and I'm gonna set the timer for 12 minutes. Once our peppers have cooked for a few minutes, you can see they've started to soften up just a little bit. It's time to go ahead and add our meat. We're gonna add the chicken. Once we get the chicken in there, we want to go ahead and season it while it's raw. You want to make sure you always season the meat when it's raw. Cooked meat is very hard to season. So, of course, we want to always do salt and pepper. I have a mixture of some chili powder, some smoked paprika, and some cumin. And you can see those. I'm going to sprinkle those in as well. And of course, we're going to add some of the secret seasoning. Stir this around, and we're going to let that cook the chicken. We're also going to let the peppers and onions cook down the rest of the way, and that's going to be our filling for our fajitas. Our pan's been cooking, and you can see that we built up some fond on the bottom of the pan. That's all flavor, so we've got to deglaze our pan, and what I'm going to use is some chicken broth. You hear our timer going off. That means that our rice is done. I will turn the rice off, but we don't want to open it right when I turn it off. We're going to use that chicken broth to get all that flavor up off the bottom of the pan. That is called fond. Fond is flavor. We want that in our food. We don't want to leave that stuck to the pan. And I use chicken broth instead of water because chicken broth also adds flavor. Of course, we don't want to water down our flavors in the pan. We want to make sure that we're always building them up. So now we're going to let this sauce reduce down just a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and take the other part of the lime that we had. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of that onto the chicken, just a tad. I'm going to save the rest of it to make my guacamole. Now while that's thickening up, I'm going to go over here to the rice. So our rice cooked for 12 minutes exactly. You turn it off. You let it sit for just a second. Don't open it right when it goes off. And then we're going to add something to the rice, which is going to be some salsa. Now this could be homemade salsa or just your favorite salsa that you like to buy. We're going to add this to the rice while it's warm, and we're going to stir that into it, and that's To this rice, you could also add some black beans if you'd like. You could also add some corn. That would be good added to the rice. All right, so we have our rice ready. Our chicken is just about ready. Now, you can serve this a lot of different ways. We can serve it on some warm tortillas with the rice on the side. We can serve the chicken right over the top of the flavored rice. We could also serve it on chips if you want to do it that way. Or if you just want to have it by itself, you have a low carb option. Top it with a little bit of shredded cheese, and you can have that as a low carb meal. I definitely would top it with some guacamole. We have our pico de gallo to go with our fajitas that we made. And now I'm going to show you a quick recipe to make a delicious guacamole to go along with it. So you're going to take your avocados, make sure that they're ripe. They should be just firm to the touch, not mushy. We're going to run the knife all the way around because you can feel that seed on the inside. We're going to twist to pull it apart. And then what we're going to do is scoop this out and put it into a bowl. And we're going to scoop out the whole part. This is a really simple guacamole. To get the seed out, we're going to hit it with the knife and twist. We're going to do the same thing, get this part out. To make the guacamole, it's very few ingredients. So of course we're going to use a ripe avocado, and it does need to be ripe but not mushy. We're going to use a little bit of our pico de gallo in there, and we're going to use a little bit of sour cream. Now, not everybody uses the sour cream, but I like the sour cream in mine. And then we're just going to start chopping and mashing our avocado until we get this all mixed together into a beautiful guacamole. This is going to be great on top of our fajitas. And that is our chicken fajitas. Enjoy.